Pokemon Emerald and Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire both hold a special place in the hearts of Pokemon fans, and there's a good reason for it. A couple weeks ago I made a deep dive comparison video between ORAS and Emerald to figure out which one was better. If you haven't seen that one, pause this and go watch it, otherwise this one might not make much sense without its context. I'll leave a link in the description. I'd also like to give a special thank you to Sergeant Toasty, who is my first Patreon member. I never imagined I'd even get this far on YouTube, much less have a Patreon supporter. I really appreciate your support. Now on to the video. I want to clarify a couple things in my comparison video based on your comments. One is that Emerald does have the ability to share secret bases, albeit only via a link cable. But the feature isn't half bad. As one of you pointed out, secret base trainers in ORAS are limited to leaving 3 Pokemon, while in Emerald they're allowed to leave 6, giving you a much broader range. While this is an advantage to Emerald in this area, the fact that it can't be done over Wi-Fi is a major disadvantage. So I'm going to call it a wash and back out the point for ORAS. Also, I was incorrect about the internal battery. It does not prevent you from saving your progress, but it does affect some time-based events. Again, thanks to one of your comments, I learned that the Game Boy Advance games used to have batteries to maintain the internal clock, since it could not rely on the Game Boy Advance to do it. The Nintendo 3DS overcame this issue and was able to maintain the time so the games no longer had to. I went back to my original source material and it turns out it was wrong too, so it looks like I passed on some Pokemon misinformation. My apologies, but thank you all for helping me find the truth. So again, I'm going to back out the point for ORAS here. When we take away these points, it brings the point total to 25 for ORAS and 24 for Emerald. Does this mean that ORAS still reigns supreme over the Hoenn region? In my estimation, it does not. And let me explain. I'd like to go over a few things about both games. Some of you argue that quality of life updates do not create valid points for ORAS, but I'm going to disagree with you. Let's imagine that you're going to purchase a house, and you've narrowed it down to 2 choices. One house is older, it has that old-fashioned charm, elegant style, and a timeless design. However, it lacks many modern conveniences. The other house is newer. It comes with a dishwasher instead of just a sink, a washer and dryer instead of a washboard and a clothesline, and a shower instead of just a bathtub. I'm sure there are some people who wouldn't mind washing dishes by hand, but a dishwasher is hard to beat in terms of quality of life. I don't think that any of you would argue that a dishwasher is not an asset just because this house isn't the first one to have one. I'm trying to compare gameplay experience rather than originality. Whether or not it's fair, ORAS is going to benefit from 10 years of improvements in both hardware and software. That being said, let's look at how the points are distributed in ORAS. It receives points for its tools such as the Dex Nav and Evergreen TMs, updates to NPCs like Wally and Steven, updates to mechanics like the physical special split and mega evolutions, and then story enhancements like better evil teams and the Delta episode. Now let's look at the points for Emerald. Emerald's story includes both teams and the showdown between the 3 Titans, areas like the Battle Tents, Trainer Hill, and the Safari Zone, better gym leader fights and rematches, and the Battle Frontier. At the end of the day, which one is really better? I really don't like this answer, since it's really a non-answer. And like I said in the previous video, the entire reason for doing the comparison video was to figure out which one was definitively better. The conclusion I came to is you're going to like one over the other depending on what appeals most to you. And again, I do not like that answer. You're most likely going to weight the points differently than I did. For example, some of you disagreed with giving 2 points for music and flying on Latios in ORAS. By changing just these 2 points down to 1 point, changes the score from 24 to 25 in Emerald's favor. For me, ORAS's updated mechanics make the game easier to play. By easier, I mean the difficulty is not as challenging, but it's not as grindy. While I'm all in favor of having a more challenging Pokemon experience, at my age, it's nice not to have to grind as much as I used to. With less time than I had in my youth, and the attention span of a slow-witted fruit fly, the quality of life updates are greatly appreciated. So, if I were to pick one to play, it's going to be ORAS. However, if you're in it for the challenge, Emerald is where it's at. If I were to do another Nuzlocke challenge, it would be on Emerald over ORAS. And again, like I said in the comparison video, the Battle Frontier is unrivaled in terms of Pokemon post-game experience. And it's a travesty that it hasn't been reinstituted in future iterations of the Pokemon franchise. ORAS even has a shrine to the Battle Tower, which I think was meant to be DLC or something, but it looks like they never found time for it. It appears that future games now focus on the main game, and then they pour whatever they have left into the post-game. At least now they have means to create DLC. So what did we learn from all this? Both Emerald and ORAS are phenomenal games. Honestly, if Emerald had all of the quality of life updates that ORAS has, or if ORAS had all of the content that Emerald has, either one would be the quintessential Hoenn game. For example, why did Emerald have Gym Leader rematches, but not with the Elite Four? And why did ORAS do the exact opposite? At the end of the day, the developers only have so much time and energy, and they have to prioritize what they think is most important. Instead of saying that Emerald is better than ORAS or vice versa, I'm of the opinion that what we're really looking at are two parts of the same whole. I think of them as the east wing and west wing of a mansion, but you can only live in one half at a time. A couple of you mentioned that there are some ROM hacks that have some of these improvements. I would totally be interested in checking one out, but to be honest, I don't know what's legitimate and what's not. I'm not sure where to go for such things. If you don't mind helping me out, join my Discord channel and send me a DM. Well everyone, I think that's going to be it for now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject, so drop me a comment below. I read every comment and I really appreciate your feedback. If you got any value out of the video, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.